I'm sure a lot of you out there have already heard about an incident that just happened here in Oregon, the Portland, Oregon, Vancouver area recently. It was a stabbing on a MAX train. Now, I know a lot of people think that this is the perfect example of what happens in Trump's America, where there's all this anti-Islamic feelings and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, it's not an example of that. This is an example of someone who was a white nationalist, a racist, and a self-proclaimed nihilist acting like an animal. And people act like animals all the time. There are all kinds of evil people out there. I try to tell people all the time, when you watch shows like Cops or Locked Up, those people are real and they're out there. And this was one of them. A lot of people think, well, I'll never run into one. There was one right there in public on the MAX train. And even though this isn't an example of what happens in Trump's America, like the media is trying to portray it, it is an example of something. It's an example of what happens when the good guys can't defend themselves against the bad guys. On that train, and that was, like I say, a local MAX train, whenever I make jokes about something on the bus or something on the MAX, that's where I'm talking about. Here in Portland, all of us pretty much ride public transportation. A lot of people say, you don't ever ride public transportation. Yeah, I do. I do it all the time, because here in Portland, pretty much everyone does. You don't even have to own a car in this area. There's so many trains and buses, etc. You can get anywhere you want without a car. Well, these people were going about their day on the train, and this crazy guy got on, started harassing people, and three men stood up and tried to confront him and stop him. But these men were not armed. They're not the type of people that think they're ever going to face a situation like this. And a lot of these people that think they're never going to face a situation like this, they think, well, you know, there's more good guys than there are bad guys. And that's true. There are more good guys than there are bad guys. In this case, there were three good guys going against one bad guy. But you know what? The one bad guy had a knife. And all it took was that knife to make that bad guy the most powerful person on the train at that time. Three grown men couldn't stop him. In fact, two of them lost their life. One of them was seriously injured because that bad guy had a knife. Now, if someone on that train had had a handgun, if they'd have been a legal concealed carrier, they would have been the most powerful person in that situation. They would have been the person that had the most potential to stop that bad guy with the knife. But because no one else did, that bad guy was now, like I said, the most powerful person on that train. He had the most potential to inflict harm on as many people as possible. And I know they don't like to say that. They don't like to emphasize that part of the story because, you know, this guy didn't have a gun. He had a knife, and he killed two people and seriously injured one. Could have killed more if he wanted to, but he decided to run away, and cops caught him later. So you took the gun out of the narrative there, so that he didn't have a gun, but yet there was still death and there was still violence. They don't like that whole thing. But what they really don't like is, once again, like I've said in the past, pointing out that if someone there had had a firearm, a good guy had been armed, they could have stopped the bad guy. But, like I say, the media doesn't like to say that because it's true. This is a perfect example. Like I said, that train event was an example of something. It's a perfect example. It's a little microcosm of a community of what happens when, through either, you know, good intentions or just ignorance, people try to outlaw guns and what they call instruments of violence. You don't get rid of violence. People are violent. Instruments are not violent. When you take away all those instruments of violence from good people, all you do is hand all the power to the bad people. And there doesn't have to be more than them than there are of us. There's far more good people than bad. But if you've got a room with 50 good people and one really bad guy with a sword, there's going to be some death before they can take him down if he wants to kill somebody. And that's the part that I think people need to take from this. They need to take from this that if there had been one good armed person there, or one of these three guys that decided to intervene had been an armed person, maybe there still would have been a death or two, but one of them would have probably been the bad guy. And less good guys would have died. So like I say, this is just a perfect example. You are never going to take power away from monsters. Monsters thrive on power. They love to be the strongest. They love to be the meanest person around because they like to inflict harm on others. And when you take the means of defense away from good guys, you just make them victims for these people who want to hurt other people. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there. I think it's sad that these two men lost their lives and one guy got injured because one self-proclaimed, like I said, nihilist, one white supremacist, you know, decides he's going to show his ass on a train. And I think it's sad, not so much that an animal acted like an animal, because I expect animals to act like animals. That doesn't surprise me. What I'm sad about is that no one there was capable of dealing with him. And like I said, he was allowed to be the most powerful person in the situation and control the situation simply because he had a knife. So that's the message I want to put out there. That's what I want people to take from this. Don't be a victim. Don't let the bad guy be the most powerful person in that situation. Prepare. Even if you think you're never going to see a situation like this, if you think this is something that happens to other people, not you, well, you know what? It does happen to people like you. It happens to people like me. It happens to people like these 3 guys on the train. So like I said, be prepared, be capable, and don't let the bad guys have the advantage.